As it feels like it's been ages since we last spoke. To me, it does anyway. But I think it's been less than a week. So I wanted to try and start today on a little bit of a positive note, right? So I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to put this to you, with everything that's happened in the last week and since the tragic death of George Floyd. What positives can you see beginning to emerge from this? What positive changes can you see happening? I'm talking specifics, even companies, people that you know that may have surprised you in a good way or that are doing things that you see as positive. I've got one that I'm going to read. So I don't know if you want me to talk about that one and give you an opportunity to think about it.
Yeah, go for it.
So I saw this come up on my LinkedIn feed yesterday and I took a screenshot of it because I thought it was really worth mentioning. A company that we're both very familiar with, the Marketing Store, TMS. They posted on their LinkedIn yesterday, basically pledging $200,000 to the cause. And in the picture of their post, they've put, "We stand against white supremacy. We stand against injustice and violence against Black lives. We stand with the Black community. We will amplify Black voices. We will listen. We will commit to learn and unlearn, and we will be held accountable for change." And then they put Black Lives Matter. And I just, like, when I saw it, it was probably one of the first real actionable statements that I'd seen that was kind of the flip side of some of the stuff that we called out last week. You know, we called out the organizations that were jumping on the kind of bandwagon and just trying to use it as a bit of virtue signaling. They're one of the first very clear, like, no, we're really making a stand here that I've seen, or certainly that jumped out to me anyway. So that's one of the positives that I've seen before we get on to...
I mean, just on that, I know several of the folks that work there listen to this podcast, so they'll be super pleased, because they moved really quickly and, they felt very strongly about it. So for you to kind of pick that out completely independently, I think those efforts, are going to be recognized by their team and, and people they work with as well. So that's great. Things that I've, seen that are positive are, a lot of people that we work with stepping up, understanding that this is not something that should be swept under the carpet, understanding that they have to do proper learning, and trying to try not to rush it, but all at the same time knowing that they have to show leadership. So that's been good. I don't want to call out anyone specifically because I don't know what they want, what they're saying, or how internally whether they feel they're doing enough yet. So I don't want to publicly call them out, but several people. I just like the way a lot of people are stepping up and not being silent. So obviously I talked about the silent majority, and a lot of people are stepping up and calling stuff out. So normally you would have seen loads of negative stuff on social media, implicit racism, explicit racism, and people just look at it and go, "That's terrible." But people are calling it out now and shutting people down. Even like yesterday when Nigel Farage was on with Piers Morgan, and I can't remember, what is it, Good Morning TV?
Yeah, Good Morning Britain, yeah.
Good Morning Britain, and I can't remember the other guests on it, but Farage was trying to argue that what happened in Bristol with the statue coming down was mob rule, and he likened it to the Taliban, and he just got completely shut down by everyone, and even Piers Morgan. And I thought that was, I don't like Piers Morgan, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Mate, Piers Morgan, by the way, who I haven't liked at all, like almost ever, probably since lockdown, mate. I've found he has been saying some stuff that I very much agree with a lot around this issue as well, by the way.
I think, look, he's not a nice man, so let's not suddenly make him out to be a good guy. Like he's not a nice guy, and he's a bully. But there's something about he seems to speak what's on his mind, and and so if he believes he's not like either doesn't seem like he's pro everything on the right hand side, that he has strong beliefs, and he doesn't mind kind of calling people out who might have seen him previously as an ally, right? So Trump, he's done that with, and your mate Trump, and
by the way, can I just pick up on something?
every time I throw that in, you're like, by the way, let me just declare I'm not a Trump fan.
Forget Trump. You said that when you were talking about Piers Morgan there, you said that he kind of, he doesn't always stick to the right, and he'll sometimes stick up for the left. I do think it's interesting how being anti-racist has sort of been portrayed as being like a politically left thing.
Yeah.
Like if you support Black Lives Matter and you support being anti-racist, then you're somehow like a slightly hardcore left. That's fucking tragic, by the way.
Yeah, but that is media at play, and it's it's the right at play. But there's also stupid idiots that say that Black Lives Matter is actually a far left Marxist organization, which is total rubbish. So other things that I feel are positive is, and this might sound counterintuitive, but it's flushing out underground conversations. Maybe we'll get into this later, but we
will.
Flushing out underground conversations. So I saw, like, you have several people who've been quite quiet throughout this whole thing, and then suddenly with the riots and stuff like that, or if George Floyd has been made out to be a martyr, but actually, they were saying that, they're saying, oh, but he was somebody who didn't live a virtuous life. All that sort of stuff. It's it's flushing it out, and those people are being exposed and being deleted from Facebook groups and friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's positive, because you're flushing out what is underground. The risk, obviously, on the other side is if you kind of push it too hard, you'll push it further down underground, which is a fine balance. But in terms of positivity, people stepping up, I love that. The world is not trying to sweep this under the carpet. That that they recognise they're doing things to change. I love the fact that there are several, of my circles and groups that are mobilising and educating and learning and listening a lot. And I think that's it gives us a bit of hope for the next stage of whatever we're about to go through.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I've like there is a real positive to kind of flushing out some of the racists that have somehow that are in, and that's it. By the way, it is racist people, right? Like I think we should really call some of it what it is. Like initially, I was a little bit like, wow, you too, because particularly if you only joined the conversation once there was some trouble at the protest, then you're gaslighting, and that's a problem. And I have myself referred to them as riots a couple of times, and I want to make sure that I correct myself on that. There have been lots of peaceful protests around the country where there has been a small amount of trouble that tends to happen at any protest, particularly a protest that is an outpour of emotion that has, let's be real, been suppressed for 400 years, right?
Yeah.
And so there's bound to be, I think in London, there was like 12 arrests, which is not a lot.
Not really.
Not a lot when you're bringing that many people together. And yeah, but some of the way that that's being reported and the comparisons that have been made, there's so much strange shit happening. Like, have you seen like the Millwall fans going out and cleaning some of the statues?
No.
And then I've like seen some people that are like, Millwall get a terrible name when they, cause trouble in London, right? right? They get tarnished with a disgusting brush, yet here they are cleaning the statues, and it's like, and why aren't these people being tarnished with the same brush as Millwall? When Millwall go out, by the way, not all Millwall fans, but the Millwall fans that go out and cause trouble.
Reputation of Millwall fans,
and when they do go off and they kick off in London, they're kicking off because of a football team, right? Which is a hell of a lot different than a protest that at some points has had some big impact points that are protesting slavery, you know, something that started off as slavery and then has continued as prejudice for as long as it has. So some of the comparisons, and, you know, when I see people making them, I just think, surely you can see how stupid that is, how stupid a comparison that is. And that leads into something I was talking to you about the other day, a couple of days ago, which is that I've called it willful ignorance, which a lot of people are using at the moment.
What do you mean by willful ignorance?
So I put something out on my socials a few days ago. Now, you know, the response of All Lives Matter in response to Black Lives Matter movement, yeah? It's very easy. It's very, very easy, right? And I don't care what anyone says on this. I don't care what anyone says on this. I'm going to say it how I see it, right? It's very, very easy to see why All Lives Matter as a reaction to Black Lives Matter doesn't work, right? You know, if you're on social media, you've seen the whole, like, the picture of the house on fire and somebody saying, but all houses matter, and them saying, yes, but this one's on fire. There's loads of different versions of that very, very clearly explain why All Lives Matter is the wrong reaction to Black Lives Matter, right? And so I believe if after the last week, you're still saying, no, I refuse to say Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, you are one of the people who is not willing to change. And because the way they are justifying themselves is because they're saying, well, I'm not racist. Yeah, I just believe that all lives matter. That's willful ignorance. That's not like, oh my God, I didn't realize. No, that's you don't want to realize. And that is a big part of the problem. And I put it out on a couple of socials, I think, like on Facebook particularly. One person on the comments on Facebook, some of the reactions that I had were just, they don't want to see it. Like somebody commented on it saying that, you know, kind of like, I just say all lives matter. And then very, very quickly they posted their own post that said, all lives matter, full stop, period, full stop, which is, yeah, right. That's willful ignorance.
End of discussion.
End of discussion. I'm not willing to listen. I'm not willing to change my stance on it. Somebody else commented on that very post, by the way, very seriously. And their first comment was, I don't know who they are, by the way. The first comment was, I usually agree with you on most of the things you say, but you're wrong on this. So I replied, we disagree. What you mean is we disagree on this. And then his reply was, and very seriously, because he then backed it up with a load of spiel that I stopped reading and I stopped engaging with him. He said, no, you don't understand. George Floyd was an actor. And this whole thing is a setup to divide and conquer. This dude believed it. That wasn't a joke.
I tell you what, I do think might be a setup. I think this is a total conspiracy theory, so indulge me for a minute, anyone who's listening. But it seems to me that the focus of the Black Lives Matter movement is on eradicating the hundreds of years of oppression that Black people have been suffering through in America. You know, we're looking at it here. We can't just look at it over America and say it doesn't happen here. Clearly, the strong feeling, you know, demonstrates, is evidenced by our history and by what happens in the world. So it seems to me that odd that, you know, very, very specific monuments that we know are going to kind of trigger high feelings within society, who are watching from afar, from their armchairs or from small majority white towns, you know, in different parts of the country are going to look at that and just see, you know, stuff on the Daily Mail, stuff on, you know, the Sun that just has, you know, anarchism. And it would not surprise me if some of those individuals have deliberately been sent by specific groups who want to drive a divide in the nation around this, right? So fascist groups or pro right wing. Like, I just can't see that people would be so bothered when the bigger picture is like, how do we stop what's been happening to us happening anymore? Oh yeah, let's desecrate, you know, something about Winston Churchill. I can. My gut tells me, my intuition tells me that there's something a bit murky there.
No,
You know, that's
I'd
my
agree with you.
conspiracy theory. Because what happens? You see it in the press. Look what they're doing to our nation's, you know, heroes and stuff like that. And the story becomes about that, and the story becomes about divide. And you know, there's some dark. You know, look, you just need to look at the whole Cambridge Analytica thing. You know, there's some just dark. You know, there's some dark minds who try and, you know, subvert society and orchestrate society. So it wouldn't surprise me. Now, I appreciate that a lot of people might listen to that and think that's a total conspiracy theory, but I just think that there were bigger things at play for the Black Lives Matter movement than to spray paint, you know, Winston Churchill. Now, that doesn't mean I think the same for the Bristolian slave owner that was, you know, that's a long held issue within Bristol. So that, you know, I'm not saying it all, but some of it just doesn't.
Yeah, and bearing in mind that's not the first time that statue's been sort of contested. That's been ongoing
time and time again.
And by the way, since that it's been pulled down, a lot of the, like, I read that one of the schools that was kind of named or built around, was built around that kind of thing. They've got rid of all affiliation with it, right? So sometimes when you don't listen to people, and you don't act on them, then people become emotionally, you know, express their emotions until they feel heard, right? And so that's what you see, and that's why you see loads of gaslighting. Now, I'd agree with you that I like, certainly the way that the media have concentrated on some of these statues that have been spray painted in the way that they are. It certainly wouldn't surprise me if somebody with an agenda has gone and done that. And by the way, I can also see if it was done by people on the protest, right? Let's try and be honest about this. These people are hurting, right? These people have been hurting all of their lives. And I, as a white man that has joined the conversation properly joined the conversation, probably not even fully for the last 7 days, in the last 3 or 4 days. And I'm not saying I understand, but fuck me, I realize how relentless it is. And I realize how, particularly on like LinkedIn, for example, where I've been posting some thoughts and stuff like that, I've done it and lost credibility with some of the organizations or individuals that might have been in my ecosystem simply by supporting this. I know I have. Nobody's really directly told me that, but I know I have, right? And I've wanted to hide, and it's made me think I don't want to do this, right? So that's like 3 or 4 days. And the type of person that I am, I sort of withdraw on that, and then I get a bit like what I am now, where I go, actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going for it. I'm gonna say what I think, and you're having it, and I don't care. And then I go a bit over the top, right? And so, not over the top. It's not over the top, but I become like I'm becoming now, which is very like arms everywhere, flailing everywhere. So if somebody on that protest has done it, and look, Winston Churchill did a lot of amazing things. He was also racist, right? He was. If somebody in the moment's done that, right, and they've got carried away and done it, we shouldn't be focusing on that and taking away from.
No, I fully agree.
Yeah, I know you do. By the way,
it's quite possible that was an in the moment thing.
Yeah.
I'm also saying it's quite possible, given how we know political manipulation works, that it might not have just been that. You know, that's all I'm saying, right? When we'll never know, right?
No,
guess
yeah,
what?
exactly.
Guess what? People are talking about it. You know, people that I haven't seen posting on social media just come out and start posting stuff about that, which really points to those those individuals, right? So they haven't, it was family picture, very little stuff that they post, and then suddenly, boom, 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 it's all about that. And do I blame them? No, it's obviously stirred enough of a strong feeling, but that's just the media just really manipulating what's going on.
Yeah.
And
it's proper gaslighting.
Yeah, one more thing before we move on.
Go on.
You are things to be positive about. Yorkshire tea and PG tips. Did you see this?
I did see it, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was brilliant. I thought so. Somebody just posted something like, "Oh, thank God Yorkshire tea hasn't, posted in support of Black Lives Matter." And then they did, and they came back really strong, and they said, "You're gonna have to find another brew." And then I think PG Tips came back in solidarity and said, "Oh well, you're gonna have to find another tea bag because we support too." I thought that was brilliant. Just that's public, that's declaration, because they probably know that there's a lot of the people that drink Yorkshire tea would have opposing beliefs to what they just posted, and I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. And they, as well, they'll need to follow that.
And it's brilliant tea, by the way. It's the best tea bag.
Have you seen, talking of tea and changing the subject completely, have you seen the video of that American woman and her daughter making tea the English way?
No.
So there's a video that's going about across all of my socials. I've seen it on all of them, right? There's an American lady and her daughter. Her daughter's like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12. And like, she's a mum. And they've done this how-to video of how to make tea the English way. And they've got a mug and they've put water in it, right? Cold water. And then put it in the microwave until it's hot. And then they've pulled it out of the microwave, put loads of milk in there, then poured loads of sugar in there. And then lastly, put the tea bag in and gave it a stir. And then said, there you go, you've got English tea. And what's really funny about it is people are reposting it with 2020's just hit its lowest point and this is sickening and do you know what I mean? But when you watch it, it's funny because you do watch it and you're like, fucking hell, these people are bad people. You're proper offended.
Oh my God. We may need to do an episode for our American friends on how to make an English cup of tea. We may have to, spell it out.
Tell me that you put the milk in after the tea bag, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I put 2 tea bags in, strain them both, and leave one in there and take one out.
Yeah, but let me just declare, I have a lot of American friends who do know how to make a good cuppa. So but we may have to do it for those people that are watching that mum and daughter and thinking that's the right way.
It's just funny, mate. It's just a bit of light-hearted fun in and amongst some of that.
Yeah.
But just to come back on that PG Tips thing that you see on Twitter, I saw I saw a post on LinkedIn about it, right? And this person, I won't I don't know who they are, but I won't call them out anyway. But the post was it was a good meaning post, right? Where it was supporting what they had done. But the first line, and I don't know if it was just trying to hook you in, but the first line was, should companies make a stand against racism? I thought, how the fuck is that even a question? But that's the times that we live in. And it had me thinking, there's not many forms of abuse, right, where we bring in the abuser as a way of balance. And I'll be a little bit twisted here, but you wouldn't sort of get child abuse and go, you sit here and go, child abuse is terrible, it's disgusting, it needs to be eradicated. And then me go, okay, but for balance, I'm just going to bring in a guy who abuses children so you can hear his point of view. You just fucking wouldn't do it.
I saw about that. Yeah.
Racism.
Yeah. I saw that a lot. It was hey, let's get the black perspective. No, it's just, this is the issue. You got to deal with it. Anyway. Yeah.
I read something as well, by the way. I just read this morning. The Abolishment of Slave Trade Act, right? I'm going to get this really, really wrong, but I want to talk about it anyway. Did you know when they abolished slave trade, they compensated everybody that had slaves? And the amount of money was so big, I forget what it was, but they didn't compensate the people that were freed from slavery. They compensated the people that were that lost their slaves. I can't remember the wording of it, right? But the conversation was massive, so big that it was only
we only finished paying it off in 2015.
In 2015.
Yeah, so the taxpayers were paying for it.
So like when I've seen people like, that kind of really like that suppressive way of slavery was 400 years ago. Let it go. We need to stop thinking about it. We need to leave it in the past, right? Imagine I showed up on fucking Remembrance Day and said, come on, people. It's been a while now. Leave it in the past. It was a horrible, right? They wouldn't have it, would they? And I'll probably get a little bit called out by people for making that comparison. But it's true, and it's similar when you see loads of people about the statue in Bristol saying, but the statue was for his charity work, and we mustn't forget all the good charity work that he done.
Yeah, but you can look deeper, and where did the philanthropy go? It went to supporters, you know.
But also Jimmy Savile did loads of
philanthropy and
loads of charity work, by the way. So if we're letting you have a statue for your charity work, we better get one of him up quick.
They don't love the comparison with Jimmy Savile, though, do they? Like, they say that that was a long time ago, and it was it was part of society back then. But Jimmy Savile in the 60s and 70s, it was part of elite, elite
white people,
male white men, taking privilege. It was prolific and prevalent, and he got away with it because not just. Do you think he could have got away with it just if he was this sole predator? He got away with it because there was a system that enabled it.
Exactly. But we're not ready to have that conversation yet because why? Because it's a bit too close to home for white people. Which kind of brings highlights I've probably learned a little bit more about my white privilege in the last week as well, in joining the conversation in the way that I have. That initial fear that I had, I recognized was driven by what parts of myself I might unearth. And of course, a lot of people were voicing that as, I'm just scared I might say something wrong. Now, if I say I'm scared I might say something, something I might say might be wrong, right? It might be construed the wrong way. What I'm kind of suggesting is black people might take what I say wrong. Yeah. And then I'll look like I'm racist, which is kind of putting it on black people, right? You're making something that's not there. When actually what as white people we really mean is, I'm a little bit scared about what I might unearth in myself and how much racism still lies within me. So that's part of like the white privilege. And then so not joining the conversation and not becoming part of it, you hold on to that. Yeah. And so it was around about like Sunday, Monday this week, I think, when I was just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going in. I'm just going to say what's on my mind like I do with everything else, and see where it goes. And it goes back to, I think I've already mentioned it on this podcast, that sense of losing some kind of credibility from certain people. And that's coming from me, a white man who's been doing it for 3 days.
Yeah.
It's mental, mate. It's
but where you lose credibility with some, you'll gain it with others. Of course. That is the great karma of life. If you do good, good will come onto you.
Yeah, and but then so I recognize. So sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, there are going to be people or organizations or companies that look at you and have looked at you in a particular way and they've resonated with your story, but then suddenly you're coming up with all this stuff and they're like, oh, well, that's not the Josh I signed up to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm into this, Josh. And so you may lose some of those, but then you get to speak to a new audience who really understand what you're about and may have seen you with a different perspective, which is just about where you've been. But we always say, right, our motto here is, it doesn't matter where you come from, you can always get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
So this is you living into where, who you want to be.
Yeah. My truth. And if I want to live in my truth, then I have to live in my truth and I have to be able to kind of accept that. And I remember the first time we did an episode where we talked about race, which was like within the first 3 or 4 episodes, I think. and I put a little snippet of it out on, I think it was Facebook. One of the only comments I got on Facebook about it was just from some dude who was like, I think I showed you it. The only thing he said was, "Josh, you really inspired me at the beginning of my journey. When did you get bigger than what you need to be?"
All right.
Just because we were just talking about race, about like white privilege or racial bias, I think it was, at the time. So it just goes, it goes to show you, innit? And you know, some people are sort of, they want to learn about themselves, but they don't want to learn about those parts of themselves.
I mean, I think in terms of what you were saying before around, you know, fear of saying the wrong thing versus confronting internal racism, I'm not sure I fully agree with that.
Okay.
Right? Because I think there is genuinely a proportion of society that just don't know how to be in this next phase. And whilst it is likely that they have levels of bias that are wired in just because of how they were raised, the society that we live in, I don't necessarily believe all of it is sort of stuff that they're like, that is you know, so overtly negative that they, you know, that it's like a fear that they're holding in. I just think there is a lot of, you know, tentative steps, not sure, you know, how do I address this person in front of me? How should I refer to their race? Should I refer to them as riots, or should I refer to them as an uprising, or should I refer to it as protests? How do I get involved? How do I ask for help? You know, these are things that people are genuinely worried about. And one of the things I'm sort of really, what I'm trying to grapple with in my role as a leader, and you know, in terms of my commitments and our commitments in bringing people together, is how do you make it okay for the people that are leaning in and curious but don't know, but are a little bit, you know, sensitive, as they should be, about steaming in, and, you know, finding the middle ground that helps them safely traverse into that middle ground and then move into the positive space. If we kind of just keep fueling these barriers, or you think like this, or you think like that, or whatever, it's not saying what you're saying was wrong. I'm just saying we have to, you know, for us who can, through our, you know, platforms and our communities, we have to help bring people over, because, you know, when we stop seeing this as a black problem and a you know, and a white problem, and collectively we start saying, okay, how do we make this societal problem, you know, something that is lessening, because it's not going to go away immediately, but the ultimate aim has to be to eradicate this, right?
Of course.
So how do we do this together? And the only way you can do it together is where we can start to address some of these things that are difficult to expose.
Yeah, and have that dialogue. And you're right. And I have the ability of kind of bunching everyone together, and then that, in a way, that becomes divisive. It's kind of what you're saying there, which is which is important. And that kind of group that you talked about there, that are sort of in that space of not knowing and being a bit fearful, they're probably one of the most important groups that can drive change, because I think that section of group are the ones that, if I'm going to say, we don't get a hold of them, right? If you don't get them moving towards that positive space that you talked about, they'll get caught up in the gaslighting one. They're the ones that are vulnerable to falling into believing the gaslighting stuff of, well, you know, look what they're doing now. They're right, you know, I don't mind having a voice, but this is going too far, and this is why you're viewed in the way that you are, which is, people aren't saying those words, but they're certainly implying it with their posts and their voice that they dress up as balanced. And so that group, if you can't sort of cultivate them and to moving towards the positive part, then the tip of the balance will go back towards the, you know, let's call it the negative side. Does that make sense?
In politics, they're known as swing voters, right? They're the ones that kind of sit here, have either that probably, let's call them central, but might have central right, central left, and you're always aiming to get some of those. And so because there are sort of interchangeable policies, let's take the Democrats and Republicans in the States, you try and grab some of those swing voters, which can have a massive, impact, right? So nobody really knows, right? I mean, sorry, I'm sure lots of people know, but it would be really curious to see, the political landscape at the moment where the swing voters are. One thing, actually, we talked about the left and the right, the left being kind of pro-Black Lives Matter movement and, Antifa and, all that sort of stuff, right? But actually, there's a lot of racism on the liberal side, as we saw with the woman in the park in New York who basically was trying to, get the police to come and probably aggressively arrest a Black man who was out bird watching. And what she was doing wrong was she had her dog off a leash in a space of natural beauty where it should have been on a leash. And he started filming her. And I'm sure you've seen this, right? But she started to completely make up that she was being attacked, and in a way that she was being physically attacked. And
she was like acting petrified.
And the stupid woman was caught on camera. And she rightly lost her job immediately. And she's had a lot of, vilification. But she represents a lot of the liberal left as well. And that's the confronting thing. Because you always think, the left, they're the more progressive, but there's a lot of people like her too.
Yeah. And a lot of them are being exposed in this moment, by the way, in that, I've talked about that kind of dressing up that voice as like this really balanced. Fucking really pisses me off. I really hate passive aggression, right? Passive aggression probably triggers me to some degree, and I've seen so much of it. Like the coming out after the protests and being like, I'm all for Black Lives Matter. I really support it, but this has gone too far. And this, and I know what you're getting at. Right? I'm not saying that some of the trouble that happened and some of the police officers that were injured, I'm not saying it's right? I'm not saying it's right. But we're in the middle of like an uprising, yeah? Oh, do you know what I hate as well is when people keep saying there's a time for a protest and it's not now. I think, when's the time for a protest then? On a Sunday night when it don't bother no one? It's not a protest, is it? There's a protest. That pisses me.
Let's just can our feelings until the most appropriate time to open that back up again.
Yeah, exactly. But then it's not a protest, is it? Have you seen? It's a bit concerning actually. Like there's I'm not even going to say his name, but the dude, I do know his name. I haven't forgot it. I just don't want to say it on this podcast.
Okay.
The dude who's getting everybody out on this weekend to take the cities back and protect our monuments. Should I say his name? Tommy Robinson. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
So they reckon there's going to be loads of them out now, taking back the streets.
Okay.
Oh, but it's a bit worrying. That it might.
Why do you think? Do you think it's worrying? There's always a lot of rhetoric, and they're always underrepresented. Like he'll be like, "We're going to do this massive thing," and then 100 people turn up in Luton. And
but if they turn up and kick off, then it'll be reported by the press, especially if they only turn up in small numbers, and then they kick off with thousands of people that are trying to peacefully protest.
Yeah, but the police will just kettlebell one of the groups, I'm hoping anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah, but I don't think we should give that idiot any more airtime.
Good. I agree.
Do you see, when he got put in jail, such a big man, he had to be kept in isolation. I think Ross Kemp was doing some prison show or whatever. And,
Ross Kemp?
And he was such a weak man. This Tommy Robinson, such a weak
coward.
Yeah.
Did you see Grant Mitchell? I can't remember his name. Ross Kemp. You just said it. Did you see? He got.
I love how I just said his name, but you had to go to his TV drama character name.
His name escaped me. He got.
Mitchell.
Did you see the grief he got when he went into the hospital? Did you see that?
No.
You know, like in the midst of the COVID lockdown, like
Right.
when everyone was locked down and people couldn't go and see their loved ones and stuff like that. He did. There was like there was one of his videos on Twitter that was advertising his next show. You know what he's like? He's like, I'm going in here, I could get killed. He did he did, like he does, yeah. I'm going into these gangs. They're all wearing masks.
It's very good.
Yeah, he did one of them, but about the hospital. And he's like, it's COVID-19. I'm going into the hospital. And he had all this PPE on. Of course, everyone at the time, when there was no PPE about and no one could go and see their loved ones,
Right.
was like, fucking Grant Mitchell gets to go in the hospital with all this PPE. And there's nurses out there reusing PPE, and I can't go and see my nan who's in hospital.
Yeah.
And he got. I don't even think that the show got aired in the end. That was quite a while back.
No, I missed that.
So he's cancelled now, Phil Mitchell. He's cancelled after that debacle.
Oh no, he'll be back. Can't keep Grant Mitchell down.
Do you reckon when Phil Mitchell retires from EastEnders, he'll go and do it with him? It'd just be like his like drunk side mate with him. Trying to start brawls.
Yeah. You know, like sometimes when old rivalries, like football rivalries, like Keane and Vieira get together and they relive scenes, and I can see one of those happening. You know, Grant and Phil just sitting and watching old episodes and going, "Yeah, do you remember when you sold the Jag and I wasn't happy about it?"
Phil Mitchell's just there like shot in whiskey.
It's orange juice now, man. It's orange juice now.
Is he sober in it, is he?
I don't know. I don't watch it.
I feel like I can take the mickey out of his drinking because I'm somebody.
Yeah, I can't. You can. Yeah. You're in that club. I'm not.
It's actually, right, before we get on to the reasons to be cheerful, can we talk a little bit? Can we do 2 minutes on football? Because it's coming back next week. So we can talk about it from like a standpoint of,
you just want to get in. You just want to get into Swindon with crown champions, right?
Yeah,
and speaking of passive aggressive, what did I text you when you texted me champions?
Yeah,
you didn't win it. You didn't win it really, because they closed the league early, didn't they? I may come to eat those words if we do that with the Premier League. But,
I'd love for you to do that with the Premier League. I'd love for you to do that with the Premier League.
That's the only time you're happy to bring some passive aggressive into the world.
Yeah, all of my kind of sensibleness goes out the window. Are you happy football's coming back?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you see any bad in it? I think I haven't really seen anybody say that it's a bad thing, but there's one or two out there.
Okay. Do I see any bad in it? No, I don't.
No. Good. Me neither.
No, I mean, look, you know where I could have gone. I could have said, like it puts higher risk, for the people that are in the stadium and the players, and people might congregate. And you know what? If you take a walk out the street and you look at parks, and like people are just, they are, on the most part, I see people being good. I see people doing social distancing. Of course, there's going to be, young'uns and stuff like that, and people that kind of, break the rules. But that's like in every walk of society. People were breaking the rules when we were in the height of lockdown.
Exactly.
There's people that are just rogue and maverick, and that's always going to be the way.
Yeah.
But on the most part, I see people are just doing the best. So I just think that they would do that as we open up life and society again.
Yeah, maybe when because Liverpool can win the title against Everton, can't they? And they're worried about everyone congregating out there. Yeah. Maybe they should send in Grant Mitchell. It could be like, where is it? Is it at Liverpool? Is it at Anfield or Goodison Park?
It'll be at Goodison Park.
It'd be like, I'm at Goodison Park. There's no one. There's no one here. There's no one here. That's on a set, but mate,
I think you're milking this Grant Mitchell impression now. It's good, but it's not that good. We should get everyone to email us and tell us.
We should get Grant Mitchell on here.
To be honest, he'll go anywhere. Opening of a crisp packet, he'd come onto our little podcast.
All right, I think we're somewhere ready for reasons to be cheerful.
Grant Mitchell.
Go on then. I'm going to let you
I got,
start.
all right, I got two actually.
Selfish. Go on then.
All right.
Do both.
All right. Number one.
Yeah.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah, New Zealand. They've cracked it. You know, they move quick. They've got great leadership.
She's
they've stayed
incredible, the
focused.
lady.
She's incredible.
I've forgotten her name, which is bad, but
Jacinda Ardern.
yeah.
I hope it's Jacinda Ardern. But she's head and shoulders probably the best global leader in the world right now.
Yeah, for me, 100%.
She's topping the list. There are people that really try hard, but just they have no sincerity, like Trudeau in Canada. So yeah, New Zealand, and because I got some good friends out there, so I'm happy for them. And then the other reason to be cheerful is people, right? And
what, the same ones we've just spent an hour slating?
Definitely. Not. I'm talking people in general, man.
Yeah.
I'm talking people in general.
Yeah.
I'm saying people are stepping up. People are slowly awakening. People are understanding that there is work to do. People are not trying to sweep it under the carpet. Of course, I'm not talking about the negative elements or the ones we're talking about. I'm talking about on the whole. This is my philosophy in life. There are more better people than there are not, you know.
Yeah.
And those people are giving me reasons to be cheerful.
Love it. But I love both of them. And my reasons to be cheerful is a personal one. Me and my wife have been worried about my daughter, who is going to be 4 this year. She starts proper school in September. We had been sending her to preschool for like only 2 half days a week. We didn't really want her to go at all, but we wanted to get her like sort of ready for going to big school. And we were so worried when we went into lockdown and school cut that the next time that she went back was going to be to big school. And she's back now, so she's doing a couple of days a week at preschool, and there was a bit of worry about what's it going to be like because they can't, and she's just slotted straight back in. She's well happy. I took the morning off and took her there on Monday, and she's straight back in. And so yeah, that's it's been like a happy thing for us in our house. Means a lot to us, particularly means a lot to me as well. So that's I feel emotional talking about it. So yeah, that's my reasons to be cheerful.
Amazing. You know, the hope that we have is in the future, mate. You know, actually the fears that we have are, they are proven wrong time and time again when the kids just step up.
Yeah.
She's just stepped up.
And you can learn a lot from them. I think you can learn so much from children. All they want to be seen and heard and loved, and as long as they do that, then they'll adapt to everything, I think. So yeah, what a way to end. Anything else to add before we go, Has?
Just to remind everyone to come find us on Instagram, 115 miles pod. Please, if you like listening to us, leave us some comments, email us, give us some feedback. Let us know what you want to hear.
Leave us a review on whatever platform you use.
Absolutely. We love doing this. We love having these chats. In the future, we're going to start to bring some people on that will add to the stimulating conversation. We're going to be bringing in co-hosts. We'll talk more about that, before we do, to just really add to the debate, add to the discussion. So we're really excited about where we're going to go with it next. And yeah, that's it.
Good man. We'll see everyone next time.